Have you ever looked at your bank account balance after a completely normal month and wondered where all your money went? You didn't buy anything absurd, no major purchases, just normal things. Groceries, a few meals out, regular expenses, and still, somehow, you feel like you should have much more money left than you do. Well, most people only realize this too late. Many things we buy today simply aren't worth it anymore. Not even close. Prices have become completely insane on items that used to be reasonable. And we sort of just accept it because everyone does the same. For example, let's start with something that will probably make some people defensive, but needs to be said. Fast food is no longer cheap. It simply isn't. In 2014, a McDonald's combo cost around 17 Rs. You bought it because it was fast and affordable. That was the whole purpose of fast food. Now those days are over. Today you pay 36, 40, sometimes 60 Rs for a meal at McDonald's or Burger King. Have you thought about that? 60 Rs for fast food. And it's not even a real restaurant with a plate, silverware, and someone bringing you juice. You're sitting in your car or at a tiny table with a plastic tray paying the same price you would for an artisanal burger with much better meat and much healthier. The cost benefit simply disappeared. You're paying almost a luxury price for food that still has the same quality as always. Nothing special. And people keep buying it because it's practical and because we've normalized it. And it gets even worse when we talk about real restaurants, not fast food. Eating out used to be something you could do regularly without destroying your budget. In 2014, for example, a meal cost around 80 Rs for two people. Now, eating out has become a luxury that hits your wallet faster than you think. You sit down, order two dishes and drinks, and when the bill arrives, it's 160, 250, or even 300 for two people. And sometimes it's not even a fancy place, just an ordinary restaurant. One meal and boom, you just spent 10% of your salary, money that's gone forever. You didn't buy anything that keeps its value. You just ate once and it's gone. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with enjoying a meal out from time to time. But when it becomes a routine several times a month, as it does for many people, you're literally letting thousands of Rs evaporate every month in restaurant bills. And why? For food that, honestly, you could make at home for a fraction of the price. Maybe it wouldn't taste as good. Fine. But is it worth paying 5 or 6 times more just for that? Probably not. Most people who struggle financially, and I mean real difficulty in saving, investing, or building wealth, eat out much more than they should. A large part of their income disappears on this, and they don't even notice because it's 50 Rs here, 80 Rs there. But at the end of the month, it becomes a huge and completely optional expense. And here comes another point. New cars. This one I truly don't understand because the math is so obvious, and yet people keep falling for it. Buying a new car today is one of the worst financial decisions someone can make. And I'm not exaggerating. The moment you drive the brand new car out of the dealership, it loses about 20% of its value instantly. You haven't even reached home, and you've already lost thousands of dollars. After that, the car keeps depreciating year after year. Meanwhile, you're probably paying installments, since nowadays almost everyone finances their car. In other words, you're paying interest on the full price, and the asset you're paying for becomes less and less valuable over time. It's the opposite of an investment. It is literally burning money. And people do this because they want to feel the smell of a new car and enjoy the sensation of having the latest model. They want others to see that they're driving something modern. It's basically a matter of status. And that's fine if you're rich and money doesn't make a difference to you. But if you're an ordinary person trying to build wealth, buying a brand new car will keep you poor. Simple as that. A used car that's a few years old is practically as reliable as a new one, takes you to the same places, and costs almost half the price. At that point, The depreciation has already happened. Someone else took the financial hit, and now you can enjoy the car without that punch to your wallet. But a lot of people don't want to hear this because they convince themselves that they deserve a new car. After all, they work hard, right? They think they deserve to treat themselves. The problem is that this gift is, in practice, a 5-year payment commitment and a huge hole in your bank account. Now let's talk about clothes, especially brand name clothing. Look, I'm not saying every expensive piece is a waste. Some items truly are worth the investment. Quality shoes, a good jacket, pieces that last for years and save you money in the long run. But that's not what most people buy when they spend money on expensive clothes. They're buying logos, buying names. You can buy a plain white t-shirt for $40 to $60, or basically the same t-shirt made from the same cotton, maybe even the same factory, but with a designer logo for $900. The only difference is the logo, and people pay because they believe it makes them look successful or stylish. Meanwhile, nobody actually cares about the brand of your t-shirt. Maybe they notice the logo, but it doesn't change their opinion of you at all. You're just $850 poor with zero real benefit. And this applies to almost every type of clothing. Designer jeans, luxury bags, expensive sneakers. Most of the time, the quality difference between the luxury version and the normal one is minimal. What you're really buying is brand recognition. And that's fine if you have money to spare. But most people who do this don't. They go into credit card debt to buy designer clothes because they think it's important. But it's not. It's just marketing convincing you that you need these things to have value as a person. And the same goes for travel. Taking vacations used to be affordable. If you planned well, you could find good price flights, stay in simple hotels, eat at local places, and enjoy everything without spending a fortune. But that has changed. Flights are absurd now. Hotels don't even need to be mentioned. Even budget options are expensive compared to a few years ago. Even so, people continue planning elaborate trips they cannot afford because they feel they need to, as if it were mandatory to post photos in expensive places to prove they're doing well in life. They see everyone posting travel photos on social media and think they must do the same. So they book a trip they can't actually afford, put everything on the credit card, and then spend the entire year paying interest. All for appearances. And don't get me wrong, traveling is amazing. A week in a new place, discovering new cultures, living different experiences, all of that has real value. But that value disappears if you have to work until you're 70 because you spent all your money on trips in your 20s and 30s. That value disappears if it keeps you from saving money or investing in your future. And if you really want to travel to get out of your routine a bit, choose shorter and closer trips. A weekend in a nearby city, a trail, a beach 2 hours away, or even a day trip somewhere different. That's more than enough to recharge. Save international trips for when you can actually afford them without going into debt. You don't need to spend money you don't have on experiences you think you must live. Speaking of unnecessary expenses, let's talk about subscriptions. These days, everyone has about 5 or 6. Netflix, Disney Plus, Prime Video, HBO Max, Apple TV, Paramount, and so on. Each one costs $20 or $30 a month. It seems like a small amount, but when added up, it's already $100, $150, even $200 a month just on streaming. That's more than $2,000 a year for watching TV. Now think about how much of that content you actually watch. You probably use 1 or 2 platforms frequently and barely touch the others, but keep paying for all of them just in case you want to watch something someday. Meanwhile, that money could be going to something more useful: investments, an emergency fund, paying off debt. Instead, it's going to services you barely use. And the worst part is that there are still people who pay for cable TV. Even with everything available on streaming, they still pay $60 a month for packages full of channels they never watch. Totally unnecessary nowadays. And it's not just with TV. People do the same with gyms. Did you know gyms today make more money from people who don't go than from the ones who do? The logic is simple. If every active member actually went every day, gyms wouldn't have enough space to accommodate everyone. So the profit comes from those who pay but don't show up. Knowing this, they make the annual plan $40 cheaper than the monthly one, just to make you subscribe and stay locked into the payment. The problem is that out of every 10 people who start going to the gym, at least 4 quit before completing 3 months. But since the plan is annual, they keep paying, and there goes more than $900 a year wasted. Money that could be invested, saved, or used for something that truly matters. But no, it goes to a gym you're not even attending. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the gym is bad. I'm saying that if you pay, you need to go. Otherwise, it's not worth it. Now another classic, new electronics. Every year a new phone comes out and people line up to buy it, even when the old one works perfectly. New laptop, new tablet, new smartwatch. The old one still works, but the new one has a slightly better camera or a slightly faster processor, and suddenly they need to upgrade. This is probably one of the dumbest ways to waste money, and almost everyone does it to some extent. A new iPhone costs more than 7,000 res depending on the model, and there are people buying one every 2 years, even though the old one still works perfectly. Okay, the new one has a better camera. So what? Does that really change your life in any meaningful way? Probably not. You're still going to use it to scroll social media, send messages, and take pictures of your food. The old one already did that. And it's not just phones. It's laptops, tablets, video games, everything. People keep upgrading to newer versions, even when the one they have works perfectly. Tech companies figured out the trick. Make you feel like you need the newest model, even if you don't. They release a new version every year with minimal improvements, and people fall for it every time. Meanwhile, if you simply kept your phone for 4 or 5 years instead of constantly upgrading, you would save thousands of dollars. Thousands that could be invested, earning interest, growing, but no. That money goes to Apple, Samsung, or any other brand. And the worst part is that these devices don't last like they used to. They're made to break or become outdated faster, the famous planned obsolescence. And it's screwing everyone. Remember the old Nokia bricks? A phone that easily lasted more than 7 years. People remain stuck on buying the new thing, even though technology has already advanced far beyond what they actually need in daily life. And here's another example that has gotten completely out of control. Premium cleaning products, expensive branded cookware, gourmet cutlery sets, custom furniture, and appliances that cost as much as a motorcycle. People are spending far more than they should on household items because they believe the more expensive version is somehow better. And sometimes it is, but in most cases, you're just paying for branding and aesthetics. Nobody needs a 2000 real air fryer, a smart fridge that shows the expiration date of your yogurt, or an imported washer dryer just to do laundry once a week. But today there's an entire culture of the perfect home, the dream kitchen, the flawless apartment, and the fully matching living room. People buy utensils they barely use, an electric fruit juicer that stays in the cabinet, a capsule coffee machine that only works with expensive imported refills, copper cookware that becomes decoration pieces, and knife sets where they only use 2 out of 10. All of this is money sitting still, taking up space, and when it comes to furniture, the situation is even worse. There are people financing a sofa, dining table, and wardrobe as if it were a car, paying in 12 or 18 installments with interest just to have custom-made furniture or the same panel as a famous influencer. The problem is that in 5 years, the decoration trend has already changed, but the bill is still arriving. And the funniest part is that it's totally possible to furnish a beautiful and functional home while spending much less. There are furniture thrift stores, resale websites, donation groups, and clearance sales with excellent products. But nobody wants that because when guests come to your house once a month, You need to say you bought a brand new sofa from the store. You can't say you bought it at a secondhand furniture shop, right? And finally, we get to the infamous status spending. This is when people buy things they don't need, not even because they truly want them, but because they believe it makes them look successful. Expensive watches, designer bags, luxury cars they can barely afford. All of this is just an attempt to look rich, which is the complete opposite of real wealth. Truly wealthy people rarely do this. If you have millions in your account, you don't need to go around telling everyone. In fact, that's dangerous. Notice that the people who do this are usually those who work with it, selling courses, making music videos, things like that, or simply poor people trying to look rich. They spend money on things that lose value just to look good in front of friends, neighbors, and strangers who actually don't care about them at all. And the saddest part is that this kind of consumption comes from insecurity, the need to prove your own worth through what you buy. People believe that if they have the right things, they'll feel better about themselves, or that others will respect them more. But that's not how it works. Respect comes from character and actions, not from the brand of your shirt. And feeling good about yourself definitely doesn't come from going into debt to buy things you don't need. People believe that if they have the right things, they'll feel better about themselves, or that others will respect them more. But that's not how it works. Respect comes from character and actions, not from the brand of your shirt. And feeling good about yourself definitely doesn't come from going into debt to buy things you don't need. We can simply stop buying overpriced things. We can keep the same phone for more than 2 years. We can cook dinner at home. We can ignore brand name products and buy regular ones. It's not hard. Just think a little before acting, unlike most people. And yes, maybe your life will seem less impressive on social media, but you know what you'll have? Financial security. You'll be able to sleep at night calmly and without debt. And in my view, that's worth much more than momentary status. The problem is that most people will only realize this too late. And to be clear, I'm not saying you should live like a monk and never enjoy anything. That's not the point. Buy things that truly matter to you, that genuinely improve your life or bring real happiness. But be honest with yourself about what actually does that. I think it's worth stopping to think about where your money is really going. Track your expenses for a month if necessary. You'll probably be surprised by how much you're spending on things that don't matter. Then see what you can cut, because I guarantee there's something. Actually, there's a lot. And all that money could be used in a much smarter way than paying for your 7th streaming subscription or the 3rd dinner out of the week. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. For those who stayed until the end, comment, "I'm here," and see you next time.